Christian Harris, son of NFL great Rodney Harris, has decided to transfer. This is a little
Harrison.
bit Harrison, excuse me. This is a little bit of a head scratcher to me.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. And let's actually stick on this for a minute. So Christian Harrison, son of Rodney Harrison, in the transfer portal. He was it? Didn't he get hurt this year? I feel like, or no, did he fill in for another injury? But yeah,
He filled in for Boo at times.
Yeah, he did. He did fill in for Boo. You're right, and he actually saw a lot of action. You know, with Jacoby Thomas probably leaving, I felt that he was going to take another step forward. But so him hitting the portal now, the only thing I could think is they think he has a ceiling, and they're going for somebody else now in the secondary.
In some ways, isn't this as a Butch Jones recruit? Like getting Khalil McKenzie to play defensive tackle, even though he should have been an offensive lineman from day one, it gives you some credibility with the fans and with the boosters because you signed a McKenzie and his dad and uncle had played there. Does some of that factor into this?
Maybe, but I thought Christian Harrison had a little bit of promise. You know what I thought he was? I thought because Tennessee had so many issues in their secondary, they wanted a freshman like Christian Harrison, a guy like Christian Harrison who, if they're thin in the secondary, they can throw him in because while he may not be great, he will be seasoned and smart. So he'll be like one of those guys that's a freshman that plays like a junior. You know what I mean? Kind of like the best example is Michael Munoz back in the day, who had physical limitations, but was also very well developed the minute he stepped foot on campus. I mean, when he was a freshman, he looked like a senior, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had fundamentals better than some seniors.
Yeah. And so I think that's what they thought with Christian Harrison. But now that this defensive backs and the secondary has been shored up a lot more, I'm not so sure there's a place for Christian Harrison. You're right. Khalil McKenzie was just Butch Jones trying to sell a 5-star recruit. He should have been an offensive lineman, just like Jalen Hurts should have been a defensive end. But, you know.
And I would argue that taking Evan and Elliott Berry was kind of a PR move, too.
It was, but I think they took Elliott for Evan because Evan was Evan may be the best kick returner in Tennessee history. He rivals Willie Gault as a return specialist in Tennessee history. I would say that Todd Kelly Jr. was one that would have worked out if he didn't have injury issues, though. The son of Todd Kelly, and Nigel Warrior was a solid safety, the son of Dale Carter. Neither were as good as their father. I think Todd Kelly Jr. actually had the potential to be better. He just, again, struggled. He battled injuries his last couple of years, and that was an issue. But
so, what do you think? What would you grade Tennessee's transfer portal to this point? I mean, I know we've got days to go till the end of the month, and more people could go, and they're going to bring more people in at this point. Out of the guys they've lost, I know Boston Lang, I didn't think was a big loss. Khalifa Keith, I didn't think was a big loss. I do think Harrison, if he's in the 2 deep, you're a significant loss, right?
Yeah, I think Harrison's. I already think he's the biggest loss for Tennessee.
Who would be second? I'm missing somebody.
Well, there's Caleb Webb, Nathan Leacock, Chaz Nimrod. It's probably Nimrod, right? Chaz Nimrod is the other big loss, along with Christian Harrison.
If I rated them right now, I'd probably say Harrison, Nimrod, Webb. The top 3 losses from Tennessee's transfer portal. How would you vote them?
I think you're right. Those 3. Now, do you think Cam Selden gets a case? Because he's not really going to be in the running back rotation, but he maybe could have been a kick returner and a return specialist and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd probably.
Let me ask you a question. When you ever go buy shoes, do you put on the wrong pair of shoes and you're like, this is incredibly uncomfortable?
Yes.
That's exactly how I felt when I was watching Chaz Nimrod play. So, I mean, to me, Caleb Webb is almost a bigger loss because I've seen Nimrod in the bright lights and he hasn't gotten it done. I'm not trying to rip the young man, but he's making a bad mistake leaving.
I was always shocked that he was seeing more action than Caleb Webb, though, because Caleb Webb seemed more athletic to me than Chaz Nimrod, funny enough. So, yeah, I was shocked it worked out. Someone brings up Jalen Smith. I think that's as big of a loss. I think they're building around Jeremiah Thielander and Arian Carter going forward. I know Thielander struggled. He was not ready to start this year. You talked about it on Saturday. If Keenan Pili plays against Ohio State, it actually may look a lot closer, funny enough.
What's the bigger loss, Keenan Pili or the loss to Arkansas?
Just the loss to Arkansas in general? That's a really good question. Well, if they beat Arkansas, they at least get a home game in this playoff. And probably they get Texas' seed, which means they're getting Clemson at home. and then they get to go play Arizona State in the second round. So with that in mind, I'm saying the loss to Arkansas, because if they beat Arkansas, they would have. This team would have beaten Clemson. I think you agree with me on that. They would have beaten Clemson pretty easily. And
I think there were 3 tiers of teams. And I may have said this already, but I think there were 3 tiers of teams. Teams that should win the championship, like Georgia and Oregon. Teams that could win a championship, and teams that would need a lot of luck. I thought that Tennessee was in that second tier the whole time.
I did too. And if Tennessee had a home game, if they could have gotten Clemson at home, I think they win that one running away. If they got Penn State seed, they could have gotten SMU at home. And being on that side, you're playing Arizona State or Boise State in the bracket. If Tennessee beats Arkansas, they have the inside track to the Final Four. Just an easy coast. So that is a bigger loss. Keenan Peeler was a huge loss, though. I mean, I'm not going to pretend he wasn't.
See, I think they drop another game, maybe Alabama, if he's hurt.
Well, wait, but he was hurt. But you're saying
no, I'm saying that they drop a game to like an Alabama, or he got hurt in the Florida game.
Oh, you're saying if they had beaten Arkansas, they might have dropped the game to Alabama if they didn't.
No, I'm just saying if he's there. I mean, you're using it as an absolute, right? You're saying that if they beat Arkansas, they're in the college football playoff with a home game. My absolute is if Keenan Pili, if Keenan Pili's 100% healthy, they don't lose another game. They play with Georgia. They look more impressive, and maybe they get a home playoff game. I just think from a leadership standpoint, he was that significant based off what I've been told.
He was a really, really, really big deal on that front. I think they still lose to Georgia, though. Now, I guess what you're saying is, though, if they beat Arkansas and then Pili gets hurt against Florida, maybe they do drop the Alabama game at that point because they're not as humbled as they need to be when they're. So that is highly possible. But yeah, so in that way, maybe it is bad with Keenan Pili getting hurt. But as far as like the transfer portal goes, I think it's very clear Christian Harrison's the biggest loss. But we got to wait and see. We have no idea what Josh Heupel and Tim Banks are about to do in the transfer portal going forward.
A red flag at all that he would leave, given that he's getting playing time. I don't have a problem with a kid leaving when he's getting playing time. But the fact that he's getting playing time, does that concern you?
This leads me to believe the coaches forced him to the portal. I mean, he's a very mature kid, and he probably isn't chasing NIL dollars. He's the son of Rodney Harrison. So he probably is just looking at a place where he could be a better fit and play more.
Dylan says, throw away the current portal approach, 2 or 3 quality starters, McCoy, Kitzelman, and Moy, and it doesn't cut in modern college football if you're only going to bring in recruiting classes in the top 10 to 15 range. That brings me to this, though, Caleb. I'm going to argue still that it's a success because of the exposure you got, which helps you not only in recruits. I used to say that was my old go-to, but also in NIL guys that are asked to dig open their pockets.
Yes, I could understand. And that's a fair point with the college football playoff. And I mean, maybe getting blown out. I mean, I'm not going to I don't know. I don't want to go to crazy Caleb conspiracies here, but maybe that would give Josh Heupel leverage to go to the boosters and say, hey guys, you want to take the next step? I need more money. And, we could see if that happens. And
it's kind of always like the economy, isn't it? I heard somebody talking on the radio the other day that said, well, I can't wait for these grocery prices to come down. Caleb, I'm a little bit older than you. They don't go down. They stay at the same. They go through inflation, and then they stay at the same, and then you get used to it, and hopefully your paycheck goes up. So it kind of reminds me of that situation a little bit.
It's funny you say that. You're right. It's when people are like, I'm going to bring groceries down. I'm like, guys, if the prices go down, you're going to cause a recession. Like, they only go down if there's a recession. You don't want that. What you want is the wages to outpace the growth in prices. So You're right. You want your paycheck to go up, not prices to go down.